being a Muslim in this contemporary world. إن الحمد لله نعمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. We give praises to Almighty Allah. We thank Him, we glorify Him, we testify that He's one, and that Prophet Muhammad is His messenger. I also testify that what Allah said in the Quran, that whoever is guided aright, nobody can mislead him, and whoever is on the wrong path, there's nobody that can guide such a person aright except Almighty Allah. I thereafter greeted us with the most noblest of greetings by saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Well, like the coordinator has said, I'm just going to share my thoughts, and I hope I'm not going to disappoint you, because most times when there are no synopsis, especially that I was late in even sending my topic to you, they will just be things that I will look at from my own perspective, and that may not necessarily represent everything that you want to hear. But I believe that Almighty Allah will make the little that I'm going to say to be beneficial to all of us. So we want to look at being a Muslim in this contemporary world. Why I chose this topic, because it always baffles me the way we Muslims behave these days, with the very good things that we have, and with the rahmat that Almighty Allah has given us, we don't really appreciate it, and so we tend to appreciate what others do. So Islam, we know many of us, is a religion, of course, and if we reduce it to a religion, then it may not necessarily represent what it is. It is a way of life, because it promotes peace, and is a just religion, promotes equality, and upon it all, it protects women and children, and it's a very progressive religion or way of life. Unfortunately, all these qualities that Islam have, we Muslims, we don't appreciate it. Because at the end of the day, in this contemporary world, they will tell you that Islam is backward, Islam is a religion of violence, Islam is a religion that doesn't promote equality. It relegates some people, especially women and children, and that we are contributing nothing to the development of the world. And at the end of the day, many of us, we accept that, as if that is what Islam represents. But all these things are just the irony of it. In reality, Islam is a way of life. It's peaceful, it's just, it promotes equality and promotes women, and Islam is a progressive religion, which we are going to see very soon. Very soon. Well, who are the Muslims? They are those that are practicing the religion of Islam, as Allah itself recognizes that, and told us that وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that He has not created us, the men, the jinn and the men, except that we should come and serve Him. He created us, and He gave us the guidance of what to do. This is to tell us that we are not the only one that are the inhabitants of this world. We have partners who are the jinns that are like us, but they see us, we don't see them. So sometimes when we have adversities, when we have issues, many of us, we believe it's coming from somewhere. But it might be as a result of we not actually giving the due respect to those that we are living together with in this world. So for many of us, we can go back and look at Surah to Jinn, and then you really understand life better when you see what the jinns are out for in this world. Allah has also told us that we Muslims are the best of Ummah, the best of people that He has created in this world. Okay? He has told us that we are the best that He has brought forth for the mankind, and He enjoins us to be promoting good and forbid the wrong. And in another verse, He says, even though we have created you as the best, but you should look at yourself as one. Inna hadhihi ummatukum ummatan wahida. And we should be loving and care for ourselves very well. Upon it all, you can't do all this except you know me. So, we need to know Almighty Allah before we can worship Him. and we should be forward looking. We should not be stagnant. We will now look at what are the problems that have relegated we the Muslims to the background. Uh, so we will look at Islam in the contemporary world. I've told us what Islam is, what we Muslims are supposed to be. Then we now want to look at how are the other people looking at us these days, and what is our disposition to that? Are we accepting defeat? Are we accepting what they call us and rejecting what we are? And that is exactly what will tell us the type of Muslim that we are in this contemporary world. Now, presently, being a Muslim, we are identified with extremism, fanaticism, and violence. Except we want to deceive ourselves. Everywhere you go, that's who we are. But let us take note. There is this principle in literature, one story principle and multiple story principle. One story principle is when you tell me this is who I am, or when you hear one story and you label me as if that one story represents me. Because some people who are violent, some people who are extremists, some people who are fanatists, because the media or whoever is telling you the story tells them that they are Muslims, and that's what you are. But there are other multiple stories of some other people who promote violence and who are even doing violence, who are fanatists, and then who are extremists. Yet, some of those things will not be promoted. But you get dejected, you accept defeat because you have heard one story, or because somebody has uh, told people that you are this because of one story. And so that is the problem that majority of us, that's what we have today. Funny enough, let me tell you another one that many of you may not like. It is also the one story principle that is affecting us as Nigerians. I'm sure many of you are there in the UK legally. When you see people who are there illegally, they go there and tell lies about Nigeria, and people would accept some of those things. I've experienced that while I was there. And everybody that sees you will believe, oh, you are in Nigeria, you are like this, because of one story that they have heard from people who felt Nigeria is no more good and they have to go. And so they must concoct one story to be able to uh, convince people that this is what Nigeria is. Same way, that is what is happening with Islam. Uh, so now, instead of looking at us, putting all the multiple stories together to tell the stories of Muslims who are tolerant, the Muslims who are compassionate, the peace-loving and just Muslims, the Muslims who are contented, who promote their family, they help the community. These are the things that constitute the core values of Islam. But they will not tell this story. But look at this instead of. Now, they will tell us that we are backward. But today, everybody wants to go to United Arab Emirates because something is happening there. But nobody will tell the story of Islam with United Arab Emirates. But people will also tell the story, or they will always tell the story of Islam with Somalia. That is 99.9% Muslims. But I've never known peace for the past 35, 40 years. That is the only story of Islam that they will tell. So, what is our problem? Our challenge is that these aspects, how do we promote it? How do we now become a Muslim that will showcase this right from our family up to the community and then globally to change the story, the one story about Islam, and change it to the multiple stories where somebody that is telling one story will be told, look at this, look at that, and look at the other aspect, and they will be convinced. At the end of the day, sir, they told the story of a weapon of mass destruction. But at the end of the day, the two giants, the two superpowers, had to apologize after destroying the country that was developing, in quotes, weapon of mass destruction. After some years, after destroying that country, they had to apologize. But what happened? It was a problem within. That's not the issue for the day. Now, we move on. What's the challenge? The historical principle is a clash of civilization. Over the years and until the end of this world, there will always be clash of civilization because there will be superpowers coming up. But for those of us who are scientists, we know that in statistics, there is what we call the normal curve. It will rise gradually, get to the peak, and also come down until it will come down to zero. That's a normal life. And that's the natural phenomenon in life. All of us will be agile when we are young. We will get to the middle age. That will be the peak of our ability. And then after 40, 45, 50, everything will start descending. We may be making more money, but the health will start descending. Deteriorating. And so many other things will start deteriorating. Like the words of our governor, one of our governors who just died recently. So when I was young, we were not able to get money for chicken. Now I have enough to buy chickens, but I can't eat it anymore. So that's the way life is. So there will always be civilization. But in the past, those who have risen to the peak of their civilization, when Islam came, they found out that, oh, this is the best civilization ever that can happen to people. And so, definitely, anybody who wants to rise will want to destroy some other people. Well, that's not in Islam, but in this mundane life, that's the way things are. So, now, our challenges, I put it here, are largely because of what they label us with, violence. They say we are not developed and that we are backward. But Allah says in the Quran, Ya mashara li jinni wal insi, in istata'tum an tanfusu min aqtari samawati wal ardi. Fanfusu la tanfusuna illa bi sultan. This is a challenge for us as Muslims. Allah has not limited us in anything. Anything we want to do, He has not limited us. But look at the people who say they are the ones practicing the pristine Islam, the Orthodox Islam. They don't promote this development. So I put question mark there, lack of development. They are justifying that we are backward. Some Muslims are justifying that. But Allah has challenged us here. You know, the other time when I quoted the first verse, Allah says, the jinn, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ. Here again, is challenging us. O company of jinn and mankind. Ya mashara al-jinni wal-insi. So Allah did not forget that He said He has created jinns and men in this world. So when He will challenge us too, He called the two of us again. O company of jinn and mankind, whatever you want to do, if you are able to pass beyond the regions of the heavens and the earth, then pass. Do whatever you like. Anything you want to do, do. Investigate whatever you want to investigate. But take note, you will not be able to do these things except with our authority. So, if Allah, in His infinite mercy, decides to permit us, that we have a spacecraft, we can go to the paradise, if we like, and come back to the world. After all, He did it for the Prophet Muhammad. But now, what is happening in the Muslim world? We are the ones that are backward. So, when anything is now done, we attribute it to the non-Muslims, and then again, we will be criticizing them. Let me tell you a funny story. In most of the Muslim world, most of the vaccines that have been developed, not even the COVID vaccines, even before, polio, this, that, and whatever, we are rejecting them. But up to today, have we developed our own? Has Allah not challenged us here to do that? Should they be the one doing it? Should it not be we doing things like that? Preventive measures. Things that can prevent diseases, that can prevent this, that can prevent that. Allah said we should do whatever we want to do. The only thing for us as Muslims, because we have guidance, whatever we want to do, we will put Allah first. But we have the guidance, We are not making use of it. Some people will do it, we will start criticizing them. Why would they not say we lack development? We are backward. Then issues that does not require violence, we will start with violence. Without prejudice to anybody. At a point, I attended a conference where it was discussed that all of us are aware of the Boko Haram. And you can't imagine, more than 10 years now, buying ammunition, this, that, and whatever, and everything, all because you say the kind of educational system that we have is not the type that we should have. And so you want to secede, and then you will now start an Islamic State. Now, somebody now asks the question, what if all these resources that you put into this violence in the name of Islam, if you put it in the educational system, that in Nigeria, we have Turkish school where they are being taught with Turkish language. We have Chinese school where they are being taught using the Chinese language and culture. That if you decide to be teaching people, you have your own secondary school, your primary school and whatever, and you want to teach them in Arabic, and you want a combination of people who will be alim by the time they are leaving primary and secondary school, and at the same time will have knowledge of chemistry, biology, and what nobody is going to stop. If anything at all, what the government will require is that at the end of secondary school, you have to sit for IEC, and you have to sit for JAM, but it will be done in English. What is the big deal about it? Chinese are doing it in Nigeria. Turkish are doing it. Some others, Japanese. So why don't you put that resources there? Well, that's on the surface of it. They may have their own very good reasons too. But instead of now associating Islam with violence, that is why we are saying being a Muslim in this contemporary world, we should always look at our methodology, which is not only in the community. I'm afraid majority of you that are living over there, you know it is very, very, very difficult bringing up children. You as Muslims in this contemporary world, how do you bring up your children in such a way that they will appreciate Islam, given the fact that you are in the midst of an environment where it is very, very difficult? So being a Muslim in this contemporary world, that's the first challenge, because charity begins at home. How do you ensure that you are conscious of Islam? How will your children and the generations upon generations will also be Muslims who will understand Islam? Okay. Now, people maim and kill. Anyway, I think I have explained this, but the aspect that I will want to go through is here. Now, let's look at Afghanistan from the last 35 years. I read and I found out that Avicenna, Ibn Sina, who was the father of medicine, was an Afghan. He was an Afghan. Today, what kind of educational system are we running? Ibn Sina, he memorized the Quran before the age of 10. And he understood Arabic in the same Afghanistan of today. And they were even calling him an Arab. And he was the father of medicine, the first book in medicine that most of the other modern day medical practitioners base their practices on, was written by Ibn Sina. Today, let us look at what has happened in Syria, Iraq, and Libya. While I was with you there in the UK, I lived with a number of Libyans. There was none of them that spent an extra day in the UK. Immediately we finished our exams, all of them left because they said they were enjoying in their country. But that country today, where is it? Country of Muslims. And then we will now be blaming some other people that those were the people that came to destroy our country. Would anybody know the nature and the way my house is laid out if it's an external person? Without the involvement of the people in my house, nobody can actually infiltrate into my house. Please take note of what I'm saying. So most of these people who are actually, destroying the name of Islam in the name of violence, some of them, some people say are justified. Yeah, fine. Well, it's okay. But many of them who have no justification for what they are doing, how did they come into being? Some other people are responsible. And then people from within are also responsible. Like somebody will say, we are blaming the Europeans today that they took away about 40 million Africans as slaves. I asked somebody the question, when they bathed in Badagry, they did not know where Oyo was then. Some people led them to Oyo because it was all bush and forest. And it's the locals that actually led them. They couldn't have been able to enter Africa if the locals did not assist them. Same thing is what is happening to Islam today. No destruction of Islam if Muslims are not helping those who wanted to destroy Islam. Let us always take note of this. They said we are backward. But you look at this, the jury system today, which the Americans are using, it was the Shura Committee in Islam, which has been modified. The social welfare that you are enjoying there, which partly I also enjoyed when I was there, okay, it was part of Islam, the zakat. And then you get, so they take a lot of money from you as tax, and then they distribute that to the less privileged. And that's what the zakat is supposed to do. But it has been given another name. The sciences that we are talking of, Muslims were foremost in the sciences. Today, we have been relegated to the background because our focus differs now. So, how do we revive all this? These are challenges for us in this contemporary world. We have been made to know that some of these things were not our heritages, that they were not for us. They developed them. But if we sit down and we read about Islam, in the contemporary world, we will know that there are so many things that they were our own legacy. So now, okay, let's move on. Anyway, in terms of development, I've mentioned this earlier. We can read this, but the case studies are here. UAE is developing, Saudi is moving towards them. Okay, does this not call for reflection? The Arab Spring, I will disappoint you here, and it's validated. Zizi in Tunisia actually started the Arab Spring. Well, let us not judge. Allah is the best judge. Zizi, because of what happened to him, committed suicide. Whereas in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah says, no matter the condition, we must not kill ourselves. He committed suicide with a view to revive a system. And that's what the West will tell you, revival. But as a Muslim, it was wrong for somebody to commit suicide. Rather, you go back to the basics. الذين ينفقون في السراء والضراء والكاظمين الغيظ والعافين عن الناس والله يحب المحسنين. That in prosperity, in adversity, a Muslim will stay with Almighty Allah. So he had problem with the state, with the authority. He was a Muslim. He wanted to revive the system. He committed suicide against another verse of the Quran. What's its validity? And yet today, all of us, we quote it, Arab Spring, Arab Spring, Arab Spring, Arab Spring. But we don't look at it with the teachings of Islam. So back to the basics. We must always, every step we take in this contemporary world, go back to the basis. What is the basis? Islamic teachings. Go and look at the justification. Should I participate in this? Should I not? UAE is developing. Yes, they will tell you there are so many atrocities there, hotels, this, that, and this, and whatever. Saudi is about to be copying. Are we going back to the basis? But you know, it's an hadith of the Prophet, that the world will not come to the end until when the desert Arabs that are living in tents start putting up skyscrapers. But you can put up the skyscrapers positively. Yeah, fine. But not because some people are doing it. So it calls for question. Every time you take a step, go back to the basics. This step I'm taking, how does it conform to Islam? Is it some other people that will tell me that I'm backward? No. How do I do this to ensure that they will appreciate Islam in me? Back to the basics. I will tell you a story here. A sister was asked, why have, this is suppression. You are covering yourself. Hijab, niqab, and whatever. They are suppressing you, you are being enslaved. She said, okay, fine, no problem. And brought out two candies, one wrapped, the other one not wrapped. I said, my friend, I've been enslaved, but I want you to pick one of these candies. The person picked the wrapped one. He said, why are you picking the wrapped one? He said, because this other one has been contaminated. I said, so that's the difference between me and you. Everything about you has been contaminated because you are walking naked. I'm not walking naked. That's one aspect. Second aspect, she said, in the Stone Age, we were not wearing clothes. The peak of civilization, everybody was wearing clothes. And now we are now going back to the Stone Age where people are now walking half naked. Eventually, we will start walking naked. Of course, you know that people have already started walking naked. So even if you are not going to pick the peak of the dressing code in Islam, at least you will pick the minimum one or maybe the moderate one, which is not suppression at all. So anyway, I just brought that as an example to show that it's not as if we are not developed. Covering ourselves does not mean lack of development. Fasting, praying, and this and that and everything does not mean we are not developing. But where we are not developing is what I'm telling us. We are not appreciating Islam. We let the contemporary world dictate how we will practice Islam to us. No. We must go back to the basics. Now, we said the Quran inspired scientific revolution during the 9th to the 13th century. Now, why has its inspirational character disappeared in the modern period? Which is the question I've been asking since. Some of the reasons are stated here. Okay, the rise of Sufism and parochialism in Islam. Uh, of course, this is not an attack on the Sufis, but it is an attack, or it is, let's say, the obvious and reality on those who have taken Sufism to another realm, to the extent that it is even getting out of Islam. And there are so many parochial thinking by Muslims. Now, the suppression or acceptance of Western colonialism and their mentality, when the true Islam is there for us, and we now find it difficult to be able to differentiate between the two. Okay? Then our change in the system of education. Let me explain this a little bit. I'm sure from some of the names that I'm seeing here, even though I've not seen your faces, but some of the names that I'm seeing here, many of you went through our own educational systems in those days. For me, everywhere I talk, I tell them that it is because we were not dynamic enough as far as Muslims are concerned. In Nigeria, the colonial masters met an educational system on ground, but that educational system did not have a curriculum. And so that's why the Ilekeu that many of you attended is different from the Markaz and the Madul Arabi and whatever, and all those Center of Arabic and Islamic Studies that is now fashioned along the curriculum, whatever. Many of you spend a lot of years at Ilekeu, and yet you are not able to read to speak Arabic. You probably just memorize some verses of the Quran or maybe considerable portion of the Quran without an understanding of what is going on. That is the kind of educational system that we were operating before. Had we sat down as Muslims and appreciated the way it was supposed to be, we would have had a very good educational system. Now, they came with an educational system that they said is superior to our own, and we accepted. Not knowing that that system that they are bringing was what the Muslims were operating before. And so you see some Muslims, they will tell you they brought something good, they brought something good, instead of even pitying themselves that, these people have brought what we threw away. So, and upon it all, we succumb to the media war against Islam. We succumb to that. And we don't have our own media. We don't have our own. I always tell people whenever they write things like that, and I tell them, you are lying. But we will not tell lies. Unfortunately, we are not coming up to tell you the truth. Yeah, I think you can see the problem. We are not going to tell lies, but we are in our cocoon. We are not coming out to tell you the truth. So at the end of the day, what will people accept? They will accept the lies. So, and then we call it a media war. It's not a war against us. We are the one at war with ourselves because we kept what is good and we are not bringing those things out. So, now, insistence on primacy of knowledge, okay, based on the Quranic revolution being divine in the origin. In Surah Rahman, I've quoted something the other time. Are we upholding that? The Muslims of the past, okay, they were researchers, they were scientists. I've given the case of Ibn Sina. But they tell us now that we for ourselves, we limited ourselves only to the Quranic revelations. And those things are no more relevant in this current world. But it is because those Quranic revelations that we fail to apply appropriately. And we limit ourselves to some of these archaic methods rather than being dynamic, applying them to what is in this contemporary world. That's what is causing the problem for us. So they are telling us that we are backward. Now, there were so many Muslims in the past who have developed a number of things which are I've put here. So, but have we sustained that nowadays? What is our focus? What are we after? Rather than what Allah says we should do, we are looking for something else because they tell us that is what we should look for. They tell us that is what we should look for. Rather than we actually showcasing what Allah says we should do. It is what people say they want that we are doing. And that's one of the verses that I will use to conclude on this lecture. Now, they regard us as apostates. They said we are violent. Most protests is by us. And then at the end of the day, those Muslims in the past, many of them, they were victimized, they were tortured. Ibn Sina was actually, most of his works were burnt. But even then, till today, those who had access to his writings they know that most of the things that people are showcasing today in this contemporary world were actually based on the works of some of these people. And also algebra, from where algebra was taken from. These are our pride, but are we proud of it? Now, again, we have closed the word of ijtihad, or what we call the independent thinking Islam. And some people will tell us, those who are so conservative in Islam, no, anything outside the four walls of this Quran and whatever. Then you ask the question, why are those people again not trekking from Nigeria to the UK using the camel that the Prophet used that time? That's part of where the independent thinking will come. When there are new developments, for as long as they did not affect the teachings of Almighty Allah. I know majority of you there, your thinking is not like this, but our own independent thinking is also going outside Islam. So we should resuscitate ijtihad, the independent thinking that will move us forward. And there is nothing you will do, whether they want to call it an innovation or whatever, you will find justification. If you can justify it in the right way from the Islamic teachings. Uh, so, well, we must be intellectuals in nature as Muslims. In the Quran, Allah challenged us with so many words: read, ponder, reflect, think, the pen, the book, and whatever. So, I'll bring up a number of verses. Ikra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaqa. Read in the name of your Lord, the one who creates. What are we reading? That was a command to the Prophet. That I should read somebody who was unlettered. Then, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. He will indeed be successful, he who purifies his soul. Do we have a purified thinking? And indeed, he will fail, he who corrupts it. Which one are we picking? This is where we as Muslims, we have an advantage. Allah gave us free will, but that free will we are misusing. And Allah has warned us here. Use it wisely, or you corrupt it. There is reward for both. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. He taught Adam all the names. So if he can teach Adam, why can't we also, suppress ourselves to teaching and thought? Let people teach us. Let us know about Islam. It's a challenge. Allah said he taught, and then we have ulamas amongst us. Why don't we study under them to know Islam the more? Alam al-insana ma lam ya'lam. Taught man what he did not know. Sorry, that's what he did not know. Okay? So, why are we sitting down, not knowing about Islam? What is our excuse? I give you an experience of somebody, and the Prophet actually says this, that the best of deeds is the one that is done consistently, even if it is very, very small. And somebody applied that and found out he was managing an activity, and he decided that, yes, I will manage this thing by being consistent. And what did he do? He was managing a journal, actually. The person who handed over to him had over 150 papers on ground, and he never published a volume. But he decided that every Thursday I will work on this between 8 and 10. And anything outside that I will not do. In 4 years, he published 6 volumes because of consistency. So that is something that is spiritual, that has now been applied to mundane matter, and it worked. And he took that principle from the hadith of the Prophet, that the best of all deeds is the one that you do consistently, no matter how small it is. So some of you put burden on yourself by deciding that every day I will be observing 1,000 rakat of tahajjud. And at the end of the day you are tired, you won't do it. But what is the Prophet saying? If it is 2 rakat or 4 rakat that you'll be doing, that you know you'll be consistent with, that no matter how tired you are, you must observe that for. But when you put too much burden on yourself, you will realize that it will not be sustainable. And so at the University of Ibadan, we have a Center for Sustainable Development. And I don't know how sustainable what they are teaching is also sustainable. So, and in Surah Rahman, Kalakali Insan Allamahul Bayan. He created man and taught him to speak. So many of us, we don't know, we don't appreciate our creation, and we find it difficult even to defend Islam because we have not taught ourselves We have not developed ourselves to speak as well. And so when you are challenged, you accept defeat. These are challenges that Almighty Allah has thrown to us. And in this contemporary world, if you don't want to get defeated, you must go by some of these things that Almighty Allah has said. And on a daily basis, we must at least develop ourselves. Now, in Nigeria, I won't tell you which region, but we have two regions of Muslims. You will tell me which one, or you decide which one. In one, every morning, there are quite a number of people, they will enlighten their children after prayers. They will do little talim, little wasi for them to remind them. In another region, they don't even allow women to go to the mosque. They don't allow children to go to the mosque. They don't do talim at all. Every talim is done at the mosque. So at the end of the day, it is whatever you hear at the mosque. So if you go. But to tell your children and give them verses of the Quran on the reasons why they have to do house chores, which will not be part of what will be said at the mosque. Specific ones that has to be done that people will appreciate. You see, that is teaching ourselves to appreciate Almighty Allah in this contemporary world. Many of them, we leave them to go and learn from outside. So at the end of the day, we end up regretting because we want them to be like the people who are outside, whereas they are different. They should be the model for the people who are outside. That people who are outside should copy, not they going outside to come and now tell us that everybody is doing medicine. I want to do medicine as well. That is not the end of life. It's good, but it is you at home that will know the capability of your children. That studying history or studying chemistry does not mean life has ended. That person may end up helping Islam even more than you would even envisage. So let's learn from some of these little whatever that we have brought. Allah has asked us to reflect, He has asked us to ponder, He has asked us to read, He has said He has created pen, He has created books. These are all for us to start thinking. Okay? And so it's important in this contemporary world. Now, well, I'll skip this. Now, today, because we lack intellectuals and education, we have a lot of problems. We have disengaged from sciences, we have disengaged from philosophy, we have disengaged from history, we have disengaged from, and I don't know what we are after. Technology doesn't mean anything to us, we only use. And do you know that's the problem that Nigeria is having? We are a consumer nation, we are not contributing anything. So the Muslims have become users of technology, not creators of sciences and technology, not creators of knowledge anymore, which has created a very big problem for us. So please let us be careful. We are not contributing to publications of research in established journals. Sorry that I'm sounding academic because I know how many Muslims do we have in the university where I am. Some of you actually, when I joined the University of Ibadan as a student, we used to joke. We had only 2.5 professors. Two were coming to Juma. We don't see one of them. So we just believe he's a Muslim, he's half Muslim. But today, we are getting towards, I mean, a count of 70, 80 out of over 600. Where are we? So what contribution can we make? We are contributing nothing to research and development. In your country, where you are residing, you see a lot of advertisement for research assistant for this. So when we come, like I came there to do my PhD, I did my research and it ended there. And they are using it now. It's not useful in Nigeria. And it's not useful in the Arabian. So anyway, this is just to promote that we must, okay, have a mentality of buying science and technology rather than producing it. Okay. Now, The network is a must. Inna hadhihi ummatukum ummatan wahida. While I was in ICT, I used to tell people this is a tool that is very useful for Muslims. Some of you now, before you go to Hajj, you will play an animation of how to perform Hajj. To the extent that when you get there, maybe what you are likely going to have problems with are some of these Arabic, whatever that you have to recite. All the processes and whatever you will have understood by playing some simulations and whatever. So, meaning that inna hadhihi ummatukum ummatan wahida. That city is supposed to achieve that. But how many countries, or how many Muslim countries are promoting this? In our houses, what promotion are we doing rather than using? So there are several multiple approaches to solving some of our problems. Okay, Islamization, or what some people call the westernization of sciences. But in fact, Islam is actually, sciences is actually Islam. Islam is sciences, whether you like it or not. So I've put this in several ways: integration of Islamic knowledge and general sciences, scientification of Islamic studies, dialogue between Islamic faith and modern sciences, acquisition of Western science, diverting focus of concern away from debating which part is the best. The Prophet actually discourages debate. Now, when I'm talking of the sciences, please, those who in the humanities should not think I'm talking of chemistry, physics, biology, medicine, engineering alone. Okay? In Fiqh, they call it science of jurisprudence. So, anything you do, any knowledge that you gain by observation from some rules and principles is basically science. So, I'm not limiting things to medicine, engineering, and whatever. So, but we should also take note that positive changes will take time. So this our idea of we want a change overnight. So now I have power, I must Islamize a place. It will not work. Whatever has been lost for 100 years cannot be regained in just one day, except Almighty Allah wants it that way. So let us note that we must start, okay, start thinking of how do we bring our houses. We should start from there, our homes, Islamizing our homes. Not Islamizing in the sense of violence, fanaticism, this, that, or whatever. The true Islam. The true Islam from our homes. Now, what do we need? We need education and knowledge. We need education and knowledge. So, as a group, please, if where your children are studying Islam, if they don't have a good curriculum there, please go and have a good curriculum for them. Going for Islamic studies and Arabic for just 30 minutes in a day, cumulatively, for 4 days in a week, for 52 days in a month, in a year. 52 weeks in a year. If you cumulate that, and somebody studies language for that period, it will be very, very, very versatile. When I'm talking of this education and knowledge, what I promote is for us to first of all ensure that the language of the Quran is understood. How? That's Arabic. Take the Western education system, for example. By the time you get to primary 3, you start reading English. Is that not so? So how many weeks, how many months have you spent in the primary school that you can now read? Why are we not starting with that? Do you know the reason why many of us don't feel sober when we are in the mosque? Because the imam is reciting the Quran, we don't understand. So I tell people who are establishing Islamic schools these days, make Arabic a curriculum, but don't rush. 3 years, 4 years, little by little conversational Arabic, once somebody understands. Not to the level of saying I'm now an alim, but He understands that language. So when the Quran is being recited, he understands it 50, 60%. He will feel sober. He will understand the reason why he's a Muslim. 80% of we Muslims in the world, we don't understand the language of the Quran. And so we don't feel anything is important even when we are praying, other than that ibadah. And do you know that apart from the 5 pillars of Islam, Islam stands on on a tripod. Okay? In Islamic studies, they tell us the first one is Aqidah. You must believe in Almighty Allah. The second one is Ibadah, worship. And the third one is Akhlaq, that is understanding and cooperation between us. The relationship between us. Is it also good? The tripod, if you remove one, Arumeta, if you remove one, will the pot sit on the arrow? It's not possible. So you can't leave anyone out of the three. If you say, oh, you believe in Almighty Allah, you are worshiping very well, people will see you praying and whatever, and your attitude, your character towards people is not good. You are not a good Muslim. You are a Muslim, but you are not a good Muslim. How much of assistance are we giving to ourselves? Those who need assistance, why are you forcing people to assist you? Those who have, why are you not assisting others? It's both ways. So at the end of the day, we don't have good understanding. We are not cooperating with ourselves. All of us are alone. 2 days ago, we were at a meeting and somebody said, we now have problems. So people are lonely when they are old. I said, maybe all of us, when we were young, we were saying we will establish, I'll finish very soon, just some 2-3 minutes, that we will establish Islamic city and all of us will be together. How many estates as Muslim created? At the end of the day, all of us will run away from that place because we are not relating with ourselves very well. Is that what Islam says? We must be proud to be Muslim. So, these are justifications for that. وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَجَنَّاتٍ عَرْضُهَا السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. We must sacrifice. We must sacrifice. Allah says that we should hasten to forgiveness and to a paradise that is as vast as the heavens and the earth. And we should be prepared for God fear, to fear Almighty Allah, our Aqidah. These set of people are the ones who spend for Allah's sake in prosperity and adversity. So a Muslim is such that when you prosper, you are grateful to Almighty Allah. When it is the other way, you are still grateful to Almighty Allah. And they can control their anger and forgive people. Akhlaq. Akhlaq. And Allah loves those who are good in their deeds. So sacrifice is important. Be proud of your religion. Okay? فَإِن تُطِيعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يُضِلُّوكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ إِنْ يَتَّبِعُونَ إِلَّا ظَنًّا وَإِنْ هُمْ إِلَّا يَخْرُصُونَ. Allah says, Muslims, if you obey most of those who are living in this world, they will mislead you from the way of Almighty Allah, because they follow nothing but conjectures and lies. So, anything you see people doing, be careful. That is not to say don't do, but check it very well. As Allah says, if you obey the multitude of people on earth, you will go astray. They will lead you astray. So, be proud of your religion. Study your religion. Know what Allah says we should do, not what people are doing. That is my conclusion. And then proper child upbringing is very